Really? Where was the house?
The house was in San Francisco, and the third floor had a ghost that many people saw.
The most terrible way imaginable, Sharon Stone lost her kid. The judge asked her 4-year-old son if he was aware that his mother produced sex films at the custody hearing. She referred to it as abuse. Her husband, Phil Bronstein, sued for divorce and assumed primary custody after she survived a stroke that almost killed her. Her heart physically broke, which led her to the Mayo Clinic. She lost her home, her family, and her finances. Decades later, Sharon is at last prepared to bid adieu. You'll be shocked to learn the true motive for her choice, though. On March 10, 1958, Sharon Stone was born in Meadville, a tiny town in Pennsylvania. The place was not a glamorous one. Tractors were driven to school by children. And following shooting excursions, families would hang deer carcasses from swing sets. Despite their hard labor, Dorothy and Joseph, her parents, had financial difficulties. Dorothy worked as an accountant. Joseph was a manufacturing worker who put in long hours. Nevertheless, they managed to launch a tiny tool and die company. Her father even employed a woman as his sole worker. Of the 4 children, Sharon was the second. From the beginning, she was distinctive. She supposedly had an IQ of 154. At the age of 5, she moved up to the 2nd grade by skipping a grade. She was not allowed to play tiny by her father. He would pull her aside and ask, "Why aren't you winning?" if she lost a game to the guys. The situation at home wasn't safe, but he had more faith in her than anyone else. Later on, Sharon disclosed that their grandfather had sexually assaulted both her and her sister. For years, that suffering was kept a secret until she revealed it in her memoir, The Beauty of Living Twice. Additionally, she broke her neck while riding a horse when she was just 14 years old. In a panic, the animal rushed into a clothesline. She survived even though it might have killed her. She received a writing scholarship to Edinburgh State College after graduating high school at the age of 15. Her uncle gave her $100 and instructed her to compete in the Miss Pennsylvania Beauty Contest that same year. While the other girls donned gowns, she arrived in a white bedsheet that had been transformed into a garment with a cape. One of the judges told her she had something unique and should attempt modeling, even though she didn't win. Her switch was flicked by that remark. She left college to pursue a career as a model in New York City. Her mother had seen Eileen Ford, the well-known agent, on television. So, without an appointment, they went to the Ford model's office and purchased 2 bus tickets. They requested a direct conversation with Ford. Eileen Ford shouted something cruel as soon as she saw Sharon in the lobby. She desired to bounce the fat off her. Sharon had no excess weight. The modeling industry was brutal, but she was normal. The majority of the best models were tall and incredibly slender. Sharon didn't leave, though. She began working in Paris and Milan after signing with Ford. She returned to New York at the age of 19, eager to take on the far more difficult task of acting. She grabbed just $300 of her funds, packed a suitcase, and relocated to Los Angeles in 1980. She gave up a lucrative modeling profession to try her hand at something unknown. She had no assurance of employment and no contacts. The cost of rent was high. The audits were harsh. Still, she went. At the age of 22, she was fully committed. She landed her first little role in Stardust Memories that same year, co-starring with Woody Allen. She began working with him at the age of 19. She stated unequivocally later, during Allen-related controversies, that he was consistently professional, courteous, and supportive. At first, it felt like a perfect match. He would later go on to produce MacGyver, and she was just starting her climb in Hollywood. But as her fame took off, the cracks in their marriage began to show. In 1986, they worked together again on Alan Quatermain and The Lost City of Gold. But things were already tense. She was rising fast. He was struggling to keep up. And then came a heartbreak that changed everything. Sharon suffered a miscarriage. That grief added more weight to an already fragile bond. They separated in 1987, just 3 years into the marriage. Their divorce wouldn't be finalized until 1990. What the world didn't see was how deeply this loss stayed with her. Years later, in 2022, she revealed something shocking. She had suffered 9 miscarriages in total, 9. Each one had taken something from her, not just physically, but emotionally. Her body had been fighting more than just the weight of grief. She had endometriosis and an autoimmune condition. Both made carrying a pregnancy nearly impossible. She once wrote that women are expected to suffer miscarriage in silence as if it's a secret shame. One of her worst experiences lasted 36 hours. That's how long she was in labor before losing the baby. While still in the hospital, weak and shattered, her adoption attorney called. A new path was opening. Phil Bronstein came into her life not long after. He was nothing like the men she'd dated before. He wasn't an actor or a producer. He was the editor of the San Francisco Examiner. They met on a blind date. Some say it might have been at a charity event. Whatever the setting, their connection grew slowly, built on shared values and deep conversations about the world, about journalism, about things that felt real. Sharon found something different in Phil. He wasn't dazzled by the red carpet. He was grounded, smart, serious. Their bond wasn't fiery and chaotic. It was calm, mature, something she hadn't experienced before. On Valentine's Day in 1998, guests arrived at their home, thinking it was just a party. But Sharon and Phil surprised everyone. That night, they got married. Ray Charles sang. The mood was unforgettable. It wasn't just glamorous. It felt genuine. After the vows, they flew away on a Warner Brothers jet for their honeymoon. The media called it a fairy tale, but Phil's own newspaper barely covered it. Only one photo appeared. His paper refused to report on his own wedding. Critics called it a blackout. 2 years later, something truly beautiful happened. They adopted a baby boy. His name was Roan. Born in Texas, June 2000, Sharon called it the happiest day of her life. After everything, the miscarriages, the heartbreak, the years of hope, Rowan was a miracle. She said when you adopt, it changes how you see the world. You stop thinking in terms of bloodlines. Any child could be your child. Any person could be family. But then, in September 2001, her life changed in an instant. Sharon was 43. She was standing behind her sofa when she felt something like lightning strike her skull. The pain was blinding. She collapsed. For hours, she lay on the floor, confused and aching. When she came to, she didn't call 911. A neighbor told her to take aspirin. Sleep it off. That advice nearly killed her. She wouldn't make it to the hospital for 72 hours. By the time doctors examined her, it was almost too late. Her brain had been bleeding for days. A ruptured vertebral artery had caused a massive hemorrhage. Even worse, the first scan missed it. One doctor told her she was faking. It was only because her best friend begged for a second test that the truth came out. Her brain was drowning in blood. She asked the doctor if she was dying. He said yes. He told her to call her mom before she lost the ability to speak. She had a 1% chance of surviving. That's what they told her. 1%? She had emergency brain surgery, the kind of procedure that meant threading a coil through the brain to stop the bleeding. She lived. But the person who woke up wasn't the same woman who'd collapsed behind the couch. In just over a week, she lost 18% of her body weight. She said she looked like teeth on a stick. Her brain had physically shifted inside her skull. Her right cheek drooped. Her left foot dragged. She couldn't smell properly. Her vision turned into swirling colors. For 2 years, she couldn't read. She couldn't remember her lines. Her career vanished overnight. The fight for her son broke Sharon Stone in a way that words almost can't explain. In 2004, right after she recovered from a stroke that nearly killed her, her husband, Phil Bronstein, filed for divorce. She was still healing, both in body and mind, when the court handed him primary custody of their son, Rowan. He was just 8 years old. And just like that, Sharon was pushed to the side. She said that after her stroke, Phil wouldn't even speak to her. It felt like she had stopped existing. And when the judge gave her only visitation rights, the shock didn't just hurt her heart emotionally, it hurt her physically. She ended up in the Mayo Clinic because her heart started skipping beats in both the upper and lower chambers. She said it literally broke her heart. She had to remortgage her home. She lost her savings. She lost her family. She lost her family. She lost her health. And in many ways, she lost herself. That kind of pain doesn't just go away. It stays. It rots. It grows. Sharon started slipping into a darkness she couldn't see out of. She was battling depression from the stroke back in 2001. And now she was dealing with losing her son, her marriage, and her career all at once. It became too much. She admitted that she thought about ending her life. She would lie in bed and cry, not knowing how to keep going. The world that once admired her didn't seem to care anymore. She wasn't the sex symbol they'd put on magazine covers. She was someone they no longer wanted to see. And she was terrified of people seeing her disability. She hid from everyone. She thought no one would accept her anymore. The cruelest moment came in court. During the custody hearing, the judge asked Roan, who was just 4 at the time, if he knew that his mother made sex movies. Sharon couldn't believe what was happening. She called it abuse, not just of her, but of her son. She had been in one film, Basic Instinct, over 10 years earlier, a scene that lasted a few seconds, and that one role was used to tear her down as a mother. She said it best, people walk around naked on TV now, and she lost her child over a single shot. That moment wasn't just humiliating, it was soul-crushing. It was a sign that no matter how hard she fought, the system didn't see her as a human being, just a scandal. Just a character from a movie. But even after all that, she didn't stop. She refused to stay broken. In 2005, 1 year after losing Rowan, she adopted another baby boy. His name was Laird. She said she'd been trying for years and couldn't believe it was real until he was in her arms. A year later, she adopted her 3rd son, Quinn. What makes it all more heartbreaking is that Sharon had gone through 9 miscarriages in her life. 9. That's 9 chances at motherhood taken from her. And yet she kept trying. She raised all 3 boys alone, still recovering from her stroke. By 2024, Laird had graduated high school and was heading to pre-med school. Quinn was quarterback for his flag football team. And Roan, the son she once lost, told her, "Mom, we're a family that weathered the storm." The stroke that nearly killed her in 2001 wasn't just a medical emergency. It was the start of a long, painful rebuild. She had a 1% chance of surviving. Her brain bled for 9 days. She lost the feeling in her left leg. Her eyesight was damaged for years. She developed aphasia. She stuttered. Everything she had built, her career, her money, her fame, was gone. Her return to acting took years. One of her first big roles after the stroke didn't come until 2013 when she played a part in the film Lovelace. That's more than a decade after she almost died. She said she became more emotionally intelligent, more direct. Sometimes people didn't like that, but she didn't care. She had brain damage. They'd have to deal with it. Her voice became louder, not just in film, but in saving lives. She used her story to become a stroke awareness advocate. Her own neurosurgeon, Dr. Michael Lawton, said that 2 out of every 3 people who suffer brain aneurysms are women, but nobody talks about that. Sharon talked. She appeared on Oprah. She spoke at the 2013 Life After Stroke Awards. She explained how women's stroke symptoms are often dismissed or misdiagnosed. Her work helped countless women realize the warning signs. She didn't just survive her stroke. She made sure others would too. In 2021, she told everything. Her memoir, The Beauty of Living Twice, hit shelves on March 30th. It became a New York Times bestseller. In those pages, she revealed that her childhood was full of abuse. Her grandfather, her parents. The pain wasn't new. It had been there since she was a girl. And then came Hollywood, where power covered cruelty in gold. She said the industry echoed the same violence, only now it wore a suit. They told her she was too old at 40, that she was done. And when she lost everything after her stroke, they turned away. She told the world exactly what that felt like. She didn't sugarcoat it. She didn't lie. She talked about being broke, about her kids, about the real Sharon. Oprah magazine called it brutally honest. The world called it brave. And then there was love, or at least the attempt. Sharon, now in her 50s and 60s, tried to date. But dating as a famous, outspoken woman with health struggles was never easy. She said men didn't like her being politically active. They didn't like her talking about hard things. They didn't like her being famous. And many couldn't handle her honesty. The stroke changed her brain. Sharon Stone never waited for a movement to tell her when to speak up. Long before Me Too shook Hollywood, she was already saying the quiet part out loud. Back in January 2018, she gave an interview where she didn't hold back. She called Harvey Weinstein coarse, mean, violent, and abusive. Then came the line that hit like a hammer, "I hope he goes to jail." Most stars were still silent back then. She said he thought he was some kind of martyr, but to her, he was nothing. Years before the world caught on, she had already been warning actresses in private. When she appeared on Louis Theroux's podcast, she didn't soften her tone. She said he was a disgusting pig. She called him a violent anaconda. He used to call her Princess Sharon, and she claimed he threw her across rooms because she refused to do what he wanted. That wasn't just anger, that was danger, and she faced it head on. In an industry where speaking up could end your career, she stood alone and she stood early. But courage isn't something you summon just once. In August 2020, her family was hit by something far more terrifying than the spotlight. Her sister Kelly and her brother-in-law Bruce were both rushed to the hospital. Fighting for their lives after catching COVID-19, Kelly had lupus. Her immune system was basically gone. She'd only stepped out to go to the pharmacy. That was all it took. Sharon was furious. She blamed people who refused to wear masks. She posted heartbreaking photos from the hospital. Kelly could barely breathe. She needed oxygen just to stay alive. On social media, she begged the world to be careful, writing, "Please do this for the people that you love." The nightmare got worse. Her mother couldn't get tested. This was a woman who had survived 2 heart attacks, 5 stents, and needed a pacemaker. All within 5 months. Still, no test. They lived in Montana. No tests unless you were already sick. And even then, results took 5 days. Sharon called the governor. She called the health department. No one answered. No one called back. Then came 2025, and the silence changed again. Sharon lost her mother. Dorothy Marie Stone died on March 26th at the age of 91, but Sharon didn't tell anyone. Not right away. She waited 4 months before saying it out loud. In July, she posted a quiet message. "My hilarious, complex mother died." That was it. Her mother's last words to her were a punch to the heart. "You talk too much. You make me want to commit suicide." The whole room laughed. That was the kind of relationship they had. Complicated. She said her mother was funny. She also said she was brutal. She swore like a Portuguese dock worker. She said awful things, but she was unforgettable. Born in Pennsylvania on May 26, 1933, married Joseph Stone in 1950. They stayed together for nearly 60 years until he died in 2009. Her one fear about dying wasn't death itself. It was the idea of seeing her parents again. That's how bad they were. Sharon told her she'd put them in jail just to give her peace.